We're joined by our next guest. You can hear him on ESPN Radio Sunday mornings from 6 to 9 a.m. Central Time. He's on the SEC Network. He's on Sirius XM every morning. Peter Burns joins us here on the Williams Tractor Hotline on Ruscin Zach. Good afternoon, Peter. How you doing?
I was just trying to figure out, is that rejoin that you guys use from commercial break, It's Time to Get Ugly? Is that just because I was coming on?
No.
I feel like that was my own walk-up music. I appreciate that.
Little backstory on that. We're kind of like, at a bar at 2 a.m. and, we're your last choice.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Just kind of like you're the sloppy stick, basically, at that point, where you're just like, you know what, I've had a couple of cocktails. We can't talk to anybody else. Might as well get Peter Burns on here. I appreciate it, boy. Hey.
Peter, what happens is that these things, in radio, these things are on a rotation. And I sit here every time we have a guest on and pray that doesn't play before the segment. And today it happened to, and we feel awful about it. But, it is what it is, I guess, at this point.
Well, no. So what's funny is my first radio gig ever was in San Antonio, Texas. And we would pre-record these traffic updates 10 minutes before. They give you the traffic, what's going on. And then I would always throw it to the traffic person. And after I realized that I would talk to the traffic person and they didn't talk back, I realized that they were taped. So what I would do is I would just throw it to the most outlandish thing. And I'd be like, and now let's go to Rusty, whose mom is 7'2", and his dad has yellow and only 4 toes. And he's like, all right, thanks, Peter. Let's talk about the traffic on I-10. And it just became a shtick that everybody, at least kind of had some fun with. So, no, I understand how it works, so I don't take offense to it.
Hey, Peter, before we get into actual sports news, have you ever eaten steak and ketchup?
No, and if I do, please just end my life at that point. I don't feel like that's a good decision. I mean, me and Booger McFarland almost came to blows at the SEC Network when I found out. We went out to dinner one night after a show, and he ordered a well-done steak. I was the only thing worse than eating a well-done steak is eating a steak with ketchup.
Yeah. You need to be on a no-fly list.
That's not good.
Seriously, at that point, I don't trust the decisions you're making.
That's right. Yeah. But
why did this get brought up?
Our morning host went on the air and mentioned that he tried steak and ketchup for the first time, and we're trying to decide what to do with him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, trying it is one thing, but then actually deciding that you're going to ruin a good steak with ketchup is two different things. Like, you could try things you don't like at least once and just be like, yeah, that was horrible. So as long as he doesn't go back for a second serving, he's good.
No, he's going back.
I think he's going to.
God,
I think he is. We're talking with Peter Burns from the SEC Network here on Ruscin Zach. I don't know. I saw Alyssa Lang talking to Pittman the other day. I don't know if you've talked to him yet or not, but what are your thoughts observing the Arkansas program and what you've seen over the first 6 months, even though Arkansas hasn't actually had a physical on-the-field practice yet?
Yeah, I feel like I know about as much as the team as Coach Pittman does, and that's just because of the pandemic and what's going on right now. I mean, I've probably talked to him maybe 3 or 4 times, and again, it's just the energy is there, and it's just a football energy. Not to say that Chad Morris didn't have it, but with Pittman, you can tell that there's this enthusiasm that, hey, I'm here. Like, I cannot wait to be a part of this. And he's trying to pull out the Arkansas out of one of the worst 2 or 3 years that program has seen in a very long time. And again, I think there's no quick fix, especially in the SEC and more importantly in the SEC West. You can't just snap your fingers and think things are going to get better. You have to build a foundation. And when I look at Pittman, I look at what Jeremy Pruitt's trying to do over at Tennessee, which is, hey, you got to get good on the offensive line and defensive line. You can do those 2 things, you're going to be able to compete at some point. The question is, you can't flip your fingers and snap your fingers and make that much better. So it's not going to be a quick fix for him, but it may not look pretty the first 1 or 2 years, but the foundation of a good football team, especially in the SEC, is where he has his he's made his bones recruiting in the day.
We've had a chance to sort of see him up close and see sort of the what he's doing with the program. What's the perception of Sam Pittman outside the borders of the state of Arkansas?
Yeah, I mean, hell of a recruiter. And there's hell of a recruiter, a guy that hey, it's not real nonsense. He's not trying to sell you something or a used car. He's just trying to say, hey, let's go have some fun. Let's play some football and get excited about it. And I think that's good. I mean, the only negative that I heard is, hey, this guy hasn't been a head coach, right? He's been an assistant coach for a while. And so, you know, what are you doing? Is this kind of like when Matt Luke took over at Ole Miss, which he did a good job, but was it enough to get to the next level? Obviously, it wasn't for Coach Matt Luke because now Lane Kiffin is over there. So I think the question marks for him are really more just a managing the time and expectations. Like, there's no doubt Coach Pittman knows everything about football you need to know, right? He's been there at successful programs. He's been coaching for a long enough time. My issue is that, hey, do you know how to fundraise? Do you know about doing all the ancillary other things that come with the head coach? And that was the thing that I've learned from Dan Mullen, from Muschamp to Kirby, is when those guys finally got elevated to be a head coach, they didn't quite understand all the other things, the fringe things that went on with being a head coach. It's not just coaching your football team. There's 9,000 different things that take up your time.
Absolutely. We're talking with Peter Burns from the SEC Network here on Ruscin and Zach. What about Tennessee? Are you a believer in they take some sort of step forward this year? I mean, they have. If they awarded a trophy for winning the offseason, I think Tennessee would probably win it right now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, you know, I remember a couple of years ago where we thought Jeremy Johnson, the Auburn quarterback, was going to win the Heisman, and that didn't turn out too well early, right? I think it's positive momentum. And I think it's a blueprint for what Arkansas should do as far as, hey, get good recruits, get solid. You don't have to be real flashy, but show some improvement going forward. You know, I think that, you know, they can upset one or two people here. I still don't think that they're a contender in the East, but, you know, Coach Pruitt is doing things that, you know, a lot of people thought that he should as far as the way that he's recruiting. And he's got, it's weird because when Butch Jones was there, it felt like he over promised a lot. And I'll never forget when we first launched the SEC Network, I was in Coach Butch Jones's office, and I said, you know, before the cameras started rolling, or after the cameras were done, and because he had sold, hey, we're going to be here, we're going to be there, we're going to do awesome. I said, well, you know, cameras turned off, and I said, Coach, why? You know, do you really think you're going to be that good? And he goes, well, let me tell you something, Peter. He goes, I got two choices. One, I can say, man, we're going to be the best thing ever, and people are enthusiastic, and we live up to that hype. Or what's my other alternative? To say, well, we're not going to be that good, and people don't get excited about my program. I'm like, I'd rather get everybody excited about the program and then try to deliver. So I always found that to be interesting. Pruitt's taken a little bit more of a subtle approach, and frankly, I think it's worked for Tennessee right now.
Big news out of the conference today was that Alabama and Ohio State are going to play in a few years, and Alabama wasted no time patting themselves on the back. This is a program that hasn't played a true non-conference road game since 2011. I mean, is this how the new? I guess since we get out of the BCS era into the playoff, where they encourage you to actually go play somebody, are we going to see more and more and more of this out of more teams from the conference?
Yeah, we're seeing, you know, Georgia's doing it. LSU did it with Texas. We're seeing Alabama do it. And really, guys, I think this is a product of we all kind of see the writing on the wall. The college football playoff will likely expand when the current deal is up in 2024. And when that happens, then it's not going to be, hey, one loss can doom your season. You know, you can have one now, especially if it's to a quality opponent like Ohio State or you know, a Texas or an Alabama, and it not ruin the year. So, yeah, I think that's good. I think that's solid that Alabama's finally getting that non-conference road game, and I do think that we're going to see a whole lot more of that. The problem is you know, these schedule openings are 7-8 years down the road. Like, who the hell's going to be the head coach over at Ohio State and Alabama at the time? Because honestly, it probably won't be Coach Saban, and I can't imagine him being there 7 years from now.
Yeah, exactly.
He scheduled the entire Pac-12 one year. He ain't going to be there. It's not his problem.
And I saw the other day, Peter, that Mississippi State and Washington State are getting together, but it's like in 10 years. So, I mean, I don't even know if Leach will be – he could be out on the boat fishing by then. I mean, he may not be
yeah, there's no telling. There's no but that's the issue. And, you know, that's what I love about college basketball. Like in Fayetteville, it's like Eric Musselman says, hey, I want to go play this team tomorrow. They can figure out a way to get it on the schedule. In football, you just can't. But I mean, again, that's just that's just the way of the world, how we live. And now I'm just hoping that we do get college football here in the fall.
Are they? We're talking with Peter Burns. When are they letting you guys back in the studio, like for television purposes?
My wife was looking at me like, "Get the hell out of the house! We need to be in the studio." So, I would imagine we probably get back in the studio late July, early August. Traditionally, guys, after College World Series, we take about 8 weeks where in the studio term is we go dark, where we don't do any shows. So this is kind of at the end of when we would just have kind of that summer vacation because school's out. But I would imagine we'll get back in late July, and then it is going to just be a sprint starting in early August to get it going.
Yeah. All right, Peter Burns, you hear him on this radio station on Sunday mornings from 6 to 9 a.m. and on a Sirius XM SEC channel and on the SEC Network. Peter Burns. Thanks, Peter, for the time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, boys. Can't wait to be back on again with y'all. Y'all have a good one.
All right, appreciate it. Peter and all our guests join us here on the Williams Tractor Hotline on Ruscin and Zach. I hate when the Time to Get Ugly thing plays before a guest
comes on.
And I'd always forget to check it until it's time.
Well,
the music starts, I'm like, oh, I
that interview got moved up, so.
Well, that's so true.
He apparently has an engagement.
He was supposed to join us later, but we got him on right there, and we appreciate him making it work for us, because it would have been, a lot of guys would have just said, to hell with you, and just not answer the phone. But
not him.
It's a good guy.
Yeah.
I was on an airplane with him once.
Really?
But I didn't say anything to him.
I mean, I looked at Marcia Clark and went, ugh, and come on.
That's right. I didn't say anything. No, I didn't.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. All right.
And the league, by the way, the SEC Network, he was in a first-class seat. So, I mean, hey
all right.
Hey, they're doing all right over there.
Or they got the Longhorn Network. All the money went away.